There it is, right up there. It says that we are live. That means that you get a dose of Yalanda and Angela. And most of you know us, and we just came back from the future. we literally are back from the future. Because that's what it feels like, Angela.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what it feels like. Because pandemic aside, I can't put that in me. I got something that's in me here. Pandemic aside, 2020, if we were to look back to, I don't know, I was trying to figure out the other day. I know the exact date, we shut down and this, that, and the other. We were watching all this stuff going on around the world. And then our leaders decided that they would attempt some leadership. And now we're here. But you and I both we've been here before because we've tried to have work-life balance. We've tried to have flexibility. We've tried to work from home, and we've had some semblance of that life. You and I have both done events all around the city and so forth. And even coming into prior to this year, you and I were trying to do this broadcast in the same room and ended up doing it this way. And so when the pandemic hit, we each saw some disruption in our lives. But for the most part, not really.
Isn't it weird? I mean, it's kind of, I was like, oh God, my life's not that much different, and it's,
Yeah, I know. I hear people all the time saying, well, they had to give up. And I'm like, wait, you were doing what?
Yeah.
I feel like I was already in the bunker. The bunker.
No, I've been in the bunker. And let it be a lesson to people who have not been through the experiences that we have, and that there are people that are living every day kind of in the bunker, particularly if you're a caregiver, particularly if you have a disability or chronic health problems. Or you're running a business. You run a business out of your house. You never get, you're working all the time, right? So there is, I think that hopefully we'll come out of this with some empathy, right? With more empathy for people who are not, and challenge what normal is. Let's challenge what,
Well, that's the question I want to talk about today. Will it be empathy or will it just be normal?
Yeah.
And that's the part. That's where I'm having to sit with. On the other side of being bitter about trying to get us to this point earlier, and you and I both, not to have bitterness at the thing. Because I remember probably about 4 years ago, if not 5, going to one of the conferences that, we used to frequent all the time, and it's saying, okay, I get the grind, I get the hustle. How do I take a year off?
Right.
And I remember asking that question in a conference sitting in one of the panel discussions or whatever, and the whole room just gasping at, what do you mean you don't want to be part of Team No Sleep? What do you mean you don't want to sacrifice every minute away from your family? I was like, can we normalize the fact that, hey, listen, I need some time. I want to take a year off. And I literally had to go off on my own to figure out how to do that and write the book myself, right? And monetize and other things and, find. So to be on this side of it, to not be bitter about it, but to help others. How do you go from, I just want to sit in self-pity for a minute. Where's my pity party? Oh, sometimes you want to have a pity party. I went to do my podcast this morning and I literally had to just delete it. I was like, this is a pity party. But when you think about how many episodes I did all year long without having a pity party, I'm like, I'm entitled.
You are. And guess what? I think, let's reframe that. Look, I got hair flying everywhere. Let's reframe pity party, right? Because I just was having this discussion with somebody else that this sort of, they say, Team No Sleep, this drive, go, go, go. I mean, is really almost like being a psychopath, right?
It is. It is.
A psychopath if you're doing it to yourself, a sociopath if you're doing it to others. And there's actually an article flying. I don't know where it's from. It's but are American psychopaths? And it shows these two people in Starbucks with their guns, and they're like,
wait,
look at us with our
say that
Starbucks and our
again.
guns.
Say it again. If you're doing it to yourself.
I'm saying if you're doing it to yourself, I'm going to say that you're a psychopath. Although a psychopath can go out murder. If you're doing others, sociopath. Because, you know, a sociopath is like a serial killer, right? And so our current president's a sociopath to me. But anyway, you know, if you're inflicting harm on other people and you don't feel bad about it, that's called being a sociopath. So we have a system that inflicts a lot of harm in the name of success or money or, you know, economy. Look at what we've done in the name of trying to save the economy, right? Is we are, you know, well over 300,000 dead because we felt like it was either or instead of both and, that you have to save the people to save the economy. And so, you know, this notion that if you feel bad because it's hard, and because and if you're feeling mistreated, that, you know, oh, you're just being pitiful, you're just, you know, you're wallowing in self-pity or whatever. I think we got to let that go, because if somebody's whacking you upside the head, meaning yourself included, and you feel bad about it, that's not self-pity, that's pain, right? And so we've been so trained as women, and then I'm just going to say, you know, Black women on top of whatever, to suppress that pain, right? You got to keep going in the face of pain, right? Just, it's funny as I say this, I just thought about Mrs. King. I just think about, you know, she look at what she had to do after the murder of her husband, and what she accomplished. And, you know, I just look at her funeral. I
think about Marilee Evers in that same vein. Yeah.
At Mrs. King's funeral, I bawled. I mean, I cried hysterically. I watched that. I remember, and I was like, why am I so torn up? I mean, I'm acting like she was my best friend, and I thought, no, the pain she carried in her life, and what she accomplished. I mean, let's not minimize that. Right. And so, you know, and I'm not saying she shouldn't have done it, right? But we are asked to carry a lot of pain. And so if you occasionally have a day where you're just like, this is terrible, it's hard, I don't like it, you know, whatever self-pity looks like for you, I would question whether you even had a pity party, Yalanda. But you know, you know, a little whine, you know, we're taught, don't whine, you know, don't complain. And it's like, there's a difference between whining. If you've been around little kids, you know what whining is, right? Versus saying, I have a complaint because something isn't working for me, right? And we're taught that if we are expressing our complaints with society, with our job, with our family, with our life, that we're being whiners instead of expressing a legitimate grievance.
I have a legitimate grievance. Okay. I have a complaint. I have a complaint. The way Christmas is shaping up yet again for us doing the same thing. And I've been the one in the past, like, okay, I have a daughter that's the Grinch, and she like, look, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. You know, she can freely say, I'm not doing that. And I tried it. It didn't work. It didn't work for me. I gave in. Yeah. And now here we are, you know, 2 days out, and it's like, man, wait, we're gonna do the same thing again. She was like, I'm not doing it. So she's headed off on her adventure. And I'm like, man, I really wanted to do something different. And it's not new. It's like I've always, but I was raising kids, and they had, you know, particular grandparents. It's like, you know, the traditions and the superstitions, you know, you got to keep up the traditions. You got to respect the superstitions. And I'm like, I really just want to do something different. And yet again, the year it didn't work.
Isn't it? So I'm going to put on my Dr. Angela psychology hat and say, you know, isn't it interesting that your daughter can go off and break the tradition because there's somebody who is reliable to keep the tradition, right? And so, you know, we look at this kind of, you know, who does it all land on?
Yeah. And you froze, girl. You froze right
last Saturday, where all the moms with mostly grown or full grown children, we're talking about this thing of the kids being like, well, you do it, mom, you could, was it LaShawn visiting her daughter's house, her daughter has a full grown woman with her own home. I said, well, you cook dinner, mommy, because, I like you to cook dinner. So there's that transition that is happening where you figure out what's going to be new, right?
Right.
Because, and not begrudging your daughter her trip, but what would you have done? What would you have liked to have done?
I kept trying to introduce the concept that I was not going to be available, and that perhaps we were going to do something else. And I mean, it is not new. Every year I have suggested, hey, let's do this as an alternative to buying all these things. Let's go out and have this good. Now, of course, this year there's major pushback on that because I kept going, but COVID's out there. COVID's out there.
Where are you going to go?
I'm not saying let's go out and and play around, frolic in COVID, but I just felt like we should do something. So yesterday we went to run to the store to get who knows what, and we ended up, well, let's just get a little couple of stocking stuffers, and it ended up shaping up to we're probably going to, and we actually changed up tradition a little bit where we said, okay, well, Christmas we won't cook, like we do Thanksgiving. We will try to go out to dinner. Well, of course, there's a wrench in that because, again, what restaurant can we as a party of however many, go out to dinner? So, in fact, I don't know what, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's going to, I don't know. And that was my thing. It's like, this is my moment, a moment for me, just like somebody else may have the other moment. And one of the things I said earlier on the podcast, mine is this particular holiday. For somebody else, it may be the end of a semester, or it may be your evaluation at work. Like, say, for instance, you work all year, and then they want to do your annual evaluation, and wait till you get into your annual evaluation, tell you all the things that's wrong with you, as opposed to throughout the year when you could actually fix things. Like, wait, you waited to all of this just so you don't have to give me my bonus, you don't have to give me my raise, and mine is, I gotta get through this. I won't know how this feels, because it could turn out absolutely wonderful because we could get absolutely creative, but it's the angst of it, and I won't know how it feels till we're on the other side of it.
That's a good. Belinda's on. I just saw her in the comments saying Merry Christmas. So Merry Christmas, Belinda.
I'm not getting comments. Am I not on comments? There it is. Okay.
So hey, y'all, Merry Christmas. Won't he do it? Yeah.
I think I'm going to see her today. I think she's coming. I have a whole box of soaps. I've got about 20 some soaps that I am donating to her ministry, and I hope Belinda, I hope you guys can make it out today to pick those up, because I would love for them to go to some homes for Christmas. If not for New Year, we'll get it done. It's boxed up and ready to go. I have one last order too, Angela. I've got one last order that's we picked up today at 3:15, and then I am officially on holiday break.
So I want to go back before we transition on and just say the thing of saying you won't know till you're on the other side, right?
Yes.
And to understand that when you're getting ready to change something, when you're trying to get ready to make a change of something that's been like forever, right? Something that you've been doing a long time. It's actually, if you look at the steps of addiction, right there, it's like making the change is like about step 5, right? That you start with you know something's wrong and you don't know what it is, kind of pre-awareness, right? Then you're aware, right? Then you're aware that there's a change, and then you start thinking, well, I'm going to have a plan, and then you attempt the plan, and usually the plan doesn't work the first time, and then you redo the plan, and so this idea that change is not just like, oh, we're just going to change. So what I hear you saying, and what I think a lot of us have experienced in this pandemic, is it's given us a chance to start going through those steps, right? Of saying, wow, I didn't even really realize, and maybe I just didn't even realize that this wasn't working for me. And now that I'm not doing it, I see it's not working. Or maybe every year, I'm with you. Every year I say, let's do it different. Let's just do it differently, right? But for me, this year forced us to do it differently. What are the remaining scrap of whatever we were doing is leveled out. So now we'll see what's going to happen next year, right? Because for us, Thanksgiving, our family Thanksgiving is a big the big holiday. And this is the first Thanksgiving in, I don't even know when, that we did not,
guys,
the whole family did not gather.
Can I tell the audience something? I know it's going to be a good show when Angela's in the lean back.
I'm the lean back.
You know, like
I'm just like lean. I am the lean.
When she leans back and she gets it in the pen starts going, you know, I'm like, oh yeah, we're about to get some good stuff out of her today, and that's when I know to throw a scenario out there. It's like, okay, this is therapy. This is therapy day. I'm leaning in, and when she goes to lean back, because I know that she's about to go deep in the research on us. Okay. She's going deep into the research.
I have a tell, man.
I keep telling y'all she's a scientist of this thing. You see how she said psychopath, sociopath, and like quickly, let me talk you down off the ledge, because you are not a psychopath, you're not a sociopath, and you're just feeling something, and it's just a little bit of anxiety, because
that's it.
I think it's about like we've had all of this year, and for me, it's like we work all year. And then everything has to come to an abrupt halt.
Yeah.
And then we have to put on our family hat. You know, we can now take off our masks, put our heart back on our sleeve, be a little vulnerable. Mm-hmm. That's another thing too, but it's vulnerable in another sense, because now, you know, even though you're going around family, it's like, you know, you letting your guard down. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot to take on. And then too, you know, you're worried about, it's a lot of worry. If everything's okay, if you got enough to do this, and you know, and all those kinds of things. And I just remember, you know, especially particularly as a young mom, you know, I was a hustler, so I always was good for Christmas. They had some amazing holidays, but just that whole angst of getting into that zone and that mode, you know, and shopping and buying of stuff. And I just felt like I could have been doing something different, as opposed to spending all that money on things that 3 days later they didn't really even care about. And I could have given them an experience. I really wish we had, but there was always this argument of, you know, and then too, being the kid of, you know, our generation, you know, coming behind the boomers with the traditions and the superstitions and, you know, and all those things. And I think what's gotten me here, let's talk about what's gotten me here, Angela, is Clubhouse.
Well, I thought literally when you started talking, I'm like, girl, Clubhouse has got you in your feelings. Please, let's talk about that.
Because I'm listening to, you know, Clubhouse. It's a generation coming behind us, right? And I'm listening to them, and I'm like, you rarely hear in our young people, like you and I, we talk about the connection of us being connected to another generation. And we know that there are some things that happen in our society where there was a great divide in the family. And I'm listening to these young people trying to grasp a hold of things, and they don't connect to anything prior to them. Not history, not parents, not grandparents. And it's like, you wonder, where the heck did they come from? Because the problems that they think they have, because I'm like, man, y'all don't, you know, as people would tell us, you don't have any problems. But when I'm looking at them like, man, they don't really have any problems. I mean, they're making gobs of money. They've got amazing careers, education, all these things. They haven't started. Many of them are just, you know, they haven't either they haven't started families. And I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, when I was your age, you know, I had 4 kids. I was running a household, you know, and which is mainly the reason they don't have families yet, because they're trying to break whatever cycles or whatnot. But at the same, even my daughter, you know, she was like, she's pondering, okay, that's Patty Betty in early. I forgot it. I'm like, girl, look, she's been coming in early lately. It throws me
like, who's in the house?
Like, what's wrong? You know, I keep wanting to go, what's wrong? And she said, don't ask me what's wrong again. She's got some time off. So it's the holiday. They're off early. So, but even like my other daughter was talking about, she's like, man, we were talking about starting a family. And she's like, I don't know how that's going to happen because they're looking at, financially. Yeah. Whereas, we threw all that to the wind because starting a family was what you were supposed to do. And it worked itself out regardless, So, but they are looking at where they are and all the different statuses and education and so forth. And they're starting their families later on. We're looking at that. I hear that as well on Instagram. Right before coming in, I was even asked to co-host a room that was for moms. Petty Betty just came in, so I'm like getting the noises distracting me a little bit. Right. And I was like, girl, I said, my kids are grown. I'm not trying to host a mommy room. I said, but I'll be there and support. And I even encouraged her to, hey, listen, go find some younger mommies that are, where you are. But I went in, even listening to them. And again, they're trying to figure it out as if no one has ever done it before.
Yeah, which is sad, that we're not passing on our collective wisdom, right? And from, generationally. And, but of course, every generation thinks they've invented everything. But you're right. We were really squeezed in here and we're very alert to the generation before us. But yeah. And some of that is probably just a backlash too, to saying, well, I don't want to do it the way it was that my family, that my parents did it. Because it seems like every generation is like, well, I'm not, oftentimes, excuse me, my nose is itching. I'm going to need a tissue.
I know, but, whenever you lie.
Whenever I lie, yeah. That to say, okay, I'm not going to do it like they did, right? But then throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's reasons things were done, right? And to at least inquire as to why, why were, like say, what were the decisions? What was culturally happening? Why did you make certain decisions? Okay, so you see, Belinda's got a comment there.
Yeah, she's just saying her son is home, and now this is no ordinary son that's home because he is working. He's epidemiologist working with COVID in Miami. So she says he's home and has her wearing 2 masks and very selective about gatherings and going out. And one of the things too, with our family, we would always have a huge Christmas brunch. We're doing a Zoom tonight. But that's not gonna. It's gonna help, but definitely not gonna make up for it. I told him we just need to get together, drive up to some parking lot, and so we can lay eyes on each other. Because I'm looking, aunties haven't seen, nieces and nephews, cousins haven't seen each other. My cousin's coming over tonight. We're going to be doing. I'm going deep diving into my financials.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
It's that time of year. I need to get the bookkeeping, and plus I'm going to tell Petty Betty to come in and pull my door up because she is getting ready to eat, run the microwave, and everything. So I'm going to get her to just I forgot she was getting home early. Luckily, I did start dinner early. That was nothing.
There you go.
I just had a whole lot of anxiety today because I was like, I got to do the broadcast. Yeah, I need to start making soap. I've got some shipment coming in because remember I told you I'm redoing the room. I'm recreating this behind me on another wall. I need to do. You know what my big problem has been? A box. Shipping has been the biggest thing that I have had to. Yeah, Wanda will help me. We're getting together tonight, so you need to roll on through, cousin Linda. So, but I just today, my podcast is usually 1 take. I ended up 3 takes, deleting it because I don't know exactly what it is I'm feeling. But the funny part about it is I know how I'm feeling and everybody around me knows how I'm feeling. And because it is our holiday anxiety.
Yeah.
What to do, where to go, how much time to give to this, how much time to make to go to see the family. Do we cook at home? Do we put up the tree? Do we buy presents, not buy presents? Right. And every year we've said, okay, let's stop buying presents. And then we've got a Santa in the family that showers everybody because she's been busy all year. Right. And we're like, well, she's gonna come with it, so we gotta reciprocate.
I literally had this discussion this morning. I'm like, I'm like, and I haven't bought anything other than for the little nephews. And I'm like, I know such and such is going to bring presents and whatever. And I'm like, and I'm just not going to have anything this year. And
Well,
I'm
you
like,
got to see your nephews.
I did. And that was so lovely. The baby he'll be 5 on January 1st.
And
So
probably wants you to stop calling him the baby, right?
Yeah. Oh no, he's a big boy. He's a big boy. And, but
He's 5 already?
Yeah, so the little one is 5, and then the older one he's like, I'm about to be 8, and his birthday's around Valentine's. So they've got a New Year's baby and a Valentine's baby, and it was just lovely to see them. And it's interesting. The little one, the youngest one, is very interested in rocks and crystals, and my sister is absolutely, from the time she was a little kid, loves stones, and we have an amazing collection of gemstones, crystals, every kind of rock. And so we wanted to give him some crystals for Christmas, and I showed him some. Well, I made the mistake of showing him something on a Skype call, because we Skype with them or whatever, and I showed him this real pretty little spiky quartz crystal, and he was like, that, so he's like, oh, I said, would you like this? And he's like, yes. He's actually really respectful little kid. Well, I put the wackadoo then on his family. My brother's like, we got to come get that crystal, because it's like, this is just
all he would talk about.
Exactly. It's like, remember that crystal we saw? When are we going to get that crystal? And so he was quite delighted to get, well, he got more than one crystal, but to get his crystals. And so, I mean, it was just, I thought it was interesting just to see the joy, and the joy in little kids. And his joy was not about Christmas, right? Yes, he's excited about Christmas. First thing he says to me when I saw him, Christmas is in 4 days. And I have a little neighbor who's 6 years old, and he ran up to me, Miss Angela, Christmas is in 4 days. And I was like, yeah, that's the joy of children around Christmas, right? But my nephew was excited because he loves crystals, and it was something that he was enthusiastic about and excited about. And it reminded me of a picture of me when I was 7, and I still have it, a little frame. And I'm all dressed. My mom sewed all my clothes. I'm in this real pretty little red satin dress with white lace. I was so proud of that dress, right? And I had wanted so badly a pin and a ring that had my initial on it, right? So it had So it had my A pin and my A ring, and I was in my little red dress, and I'm taking the picture like this. So it's like, look, here's my ring and my pin. And I said, when I saw my nephew's face with his crystals like this, I said, that's the mood. Like, look at my A pin and my A ring. He says, look at my crystals. That there's a joy in children that is about. It's not it was not about anything elaborate, right? It was something very specific. Yes, it was a specific kind of a thing, but it wasn't particularly elaborate. And I was just thinking about this idea of trying to shift your family traditions. And, some of that probably is useful to just go back and say, if you remember, when were the times that your family thinks about, they laugh about, what were the experiences, right? Were they exclusively related to the holidays? Probably not. There's probably stories about, remember when we did such and such, or we were all together, and like we have a photograph from a family trip we took, and it's all of us. So it's my mom and 5 kids, and my dad is forcing us to take pictures, and everybody in the pictures like this. And
I think the focus is on the holiday, because that's when you really made the time.
That's when you make the time, right?
That's when you make but it's really all about the time. Like Belinda's saying, her present is the meal, but now they, of course, they have their first grandson. His papa got him a special surprise. His uncle is ready, and of course, so I think last year he was an infant, so this year, they get to actually really get into surprising him. So that's something. But like I said, I think it's more or less. Bless you. I think it's more or less because if the holidays are the only time when you forcibly stop what you're doing and spend time with family, then that's the thing. But for us, like we saw each other last week, we saw each other last holiday.
Yep.
We're all still in the same city. We don't have the anxiety of trying to travel and get everybody, to another city. And so there are even then there are so many great moments because still as much as we have all have going on, this is when like Petty Betty Petty Betty is a workaholic. All of them, Petty Betty, my two oldest, I should say, my two oldest, like they'll work. If you let them come in, they're coming in, right? The two youngest are like me. I got a minute off. Can I be an hour late? Do I have to come? And my youngest, he's kind of a workaholic too. So my youngest daughter and myself are like that. Like we don't want to give work all of our life, but those I guarantee you, the only reason Petty Betty is home right now, they shut down the facility. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, she'd be at work, right? Because that's just who they are. So we tie it to, and I hope I'm not echoing because I closed the door here.
Pretty good to me.
But I think it's because we only do, especially like in America, it's like, what is it? October, November, December. Yeah. We have Halloween, which is really all about the kids. It's really when people really make time for the kids to have something all their own besides Easter. And then, of course, Thanksgiving, which is, okay, and believe it or not, more people take more time off for Thanksgiving than they actually do for Christmas anyway. And companies give more time for Thanksgiving than they do for Christmas. And then you've got, because with Christmas, you got New Year's, right in that week. So, you try to get right back to life and then you got to take downtime again. It's just, I think because for me, this has been a holiday. Like I probably have absolutely nothing to worry about, but because all of my life, it has been something of an anxiety. It's what is like the memory of it, the muscle memory is that I should have. Well, it's just that I feel like I should have some anxiety, even though I probably don't. I don't have any kids. Petty Betty keeps saying to me, Mom, the kids are grown. Kids are grown.
Well, and this is the thing I realized at Thanksgiving, that the fretting about it, that the anxiety, the stress about it is part of the tradition, right? And I just, my brother and I were, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And I just flashed back to my grandma and my aunts and uncle and my mom. And what are we going to eat? What are we going to eat? What are we going to do? Well, my grandma had 7 years of supplies. I mean, she had food cooked. She had all the food cooked, and she didn't want anybody else to cook any food. Now you can bring a little something, but I mean, it was already done. What are we going to do? That the fretting, that the anxiety is part of the tradition. And so can you separate, right, the anxiety from the tradition, right? So if you can pull the anxiety out, the tradition is we're all together and we're enjoying each other's company, right? Yeah.
I'm gonna have to retitle this one because we were gonna talk about normalize, but I think we're still talking about normalizing, but we were gonna talk about normalizing leading. And so we're trying to figure out like how to normalize the holiday, how to normalize anxiety over the holiday. One thing that did resonate, that's okay. One thing that did resonate with all of us for 2020, remember it kept coming up where you were seeing people say all the time, you never know what somebody's going through. That's something I want us to normalize, is that normalize the fact that guess what? Somebody somewhere is going through something. Yeah. So if we could just, ask in the room, is everybody okay?
Right.
Before we say we need this, got to have this, got to keep it moving, got to, like what if today one of us wasn't good and we say, okay, we don't need to do a show. Right. Let's normalize going. Yep. I did talk about normalize leading forward.
Yes.
But let's just normalize that. It's like you said, I love that it's the fretting of a thing. And I think that's the thing that has been passed down, because I would always my parents were divorced. So that coming up on a holiday was a whole other thing. Yeah. It's like, the whole negotiating going on. What time am I picking her up? What time do I have to have her back? Well, you need to have her back because we got to go, visit the family and this, that. And so I would get up early, get dressed. I'm going off with my dad. We're going to see his parents. And then I got to get back home. Mom's been waiting there all day. I got to, I'm dealing with the fretting of that. Mm-hmm. She's been waiting on me all day. I get back home. Now we got to do our little dinner at the house. And then we got to go and visit her family. Right. So she spent a lot of time waiting for her daughter to get back. And he spent a lot of time, waiting to deal with them two having to deal with each other over there.
Yeah.
So, and you know what? I don't know if that's somewhere, but I didn't keep that. But
Wait, where's my pen?
It's still right. It's still there.
It's bound with it, right? The tradition is bound with the anxiety, right? And especially with you being the only child between these two parents, it's all on you. All that anxiety was on you. Blessings to your parents. I mean, they're doing the best they can, but see, it becomes. It starts to feel like if there's not anxiety, it's not the tradition. I'm not experiencing it, right? I'm not having the rest of it because the anxiety was like you're the fish in water. The water you're swimming in is anxiety, right?
You know what? I will say this. It's one of the reasons I hate stuff to this day. As an only child, I got so much stuff for Christmas. And that's one of the traditions I constantly fought with my mother trying to break with my kids. Because I used to tell her, you had one, I got four.
Yeah.
And their Christmases was just as amazing as mine. They got whatever they wanted. And that's what I'm trying to break right now. Like we went shopping yesterday. Like we have to get more stuff. I hate stuff. I do.
Well, and I tell you, I'm with you on that, especially for adults. And this is something that we really, that we've had, that we went through in our family too, is to say, we're all grown people. And it's, and if they're, and we still haven't figured it out, but, to say it's one thing if it's an adult buying for children, but then we carry this into adults buying for adults. So I'm taking money that and I'm going to buy something. I'm going to tell you what I want, and you're going to tell me what you want. And I'm going to buy you your thing, and you're going to buy my thing. Why don't I just buy my thing and you buy your thing, and we don't have to worry about it, right? And that the actual gift part of it can be something simple. I mean, just think about all those like I loved Little House on the Prairie as a girl. I mean, it's like I'm like I wish we had old timey, like here, Ma, I sewed you some socks, and it's it's just the things that are useful and. But the flip side is if you want extravagance and decadence, that's fine. But I just think you got to be able to remove the anxiety. So, this is my friend, Shanna. So can I read it?
You want to read her comment?
I'm going to have to lean in. I think here, I can make it bigger. Here we go. I think the expectation that the holidays happens over a couple of days is tragic. Amen. We as the adults that will be handed the reins to the holidays should be able to make new traditions without guilt from our moms, aunts, and grandmothers. Amen. Amen. And Shannon's in Houston, Texas. And that is some wisdom from Houston.
That's the other side of it. That's why I said you don't know how you're going to deal with it till you get to the other side of it, because you're anticipating in that fretting the guilt that's going to come with it. And that's one of the things that I dealt with. Trying to do, say, let's do something different, Well, and the memories, but my God, you come into it with so much worry and anxiety till now you got to break the ice, you got to warm up. And it's always was wonderful after the fact, but it's like, oh my God, can we hurry up and get to the after the fact? Because I'm a nervous wreck right now.
And to Shanna's point, it sort of goes with your thing about the traditions and the superstitions, is that we have these things handed down, right? They're handed down to us, and it's like we have the right, and sometimes the obligation, I think, to say we don't need to do that anymore. It doesn't need to be this complicated anymore. I mean, I think about my grandma and my mom's mom. She loved to cook. She loved to be in the kitchen. She loved to make a fuss. And this was her chance. When the family wasn't around, she was not cooking like that, right? And so she loved special occasion cooking, and she had grown up in a farm family. She was one of the oldest of 12 kids. I mean, she could cook with her eyes closed, right? So she enjoyed this. This was her expression. This was her gift, right? And there was an enjoyment to it. And yes, there was some fretting, but there wasn't real fretting because she knew she was in charge, right? She absolutely knew that she was in charge. And so, it's like we, for many years in our family, tried to duplicate separate from her, right? The big meal. And we're just, and everybody's trying to come up with these, this, and we would do it, at Thanksgiving and Christmas and then New Year's. We were doing 3 a year, 3 in 2 months, And it's why, like, we can't, and our food's not as good as grandma's anyway. It's like, why are we trying to duplicate grandma? And I'm like, I'm just going to buy some food, right? I'm like, grandma doesn't believe in buying food, but I'm like, I'm going to buy some pre-made food. I'm like, if I'm going to cook something, it's because I like it, right? And everybody's like, please, Ange, please make candied sweet potatoes. The way you got mom's recipe. And I was like, mom's recipe is butter and sugar and some sweet potatoes. That is not a secret recipe. Okay.
I want to thank Shana for this right here, understanding the love language. But we spend so much time not understanding that we do have those language by which we non-verbally speak to each other, right? Yeah. So she's saying that her mother's love language is gifting. I guess it was my mom's too. So it's taken her 50 years to just put the guilt aside and accept that I'm going to get way too many things. You know what? Thank you. That is freeing to me, because that was my mother's love language, and she, honey, spread it all around to everybody. It's not a soul that knew her that she wasn't gifted. In fact, the only way you knew her is because she did something for you. And I'm that way somewhat. And I, as we move over to Clubhouse, and I'm trying to decide who to take, who to follow over there. I'm like, it's like, where are we now? So I think, and we're pretty good in my family. If there are some dynamics like that we can actually have some discussion. Like we call the baby girl the Grinch. Her thing is, and she's kind-hearted, but she's like, she just doesn't get into this ritual of, on this one day, I'm going to truly get, am I really going to give you something that you need, when I know after we spend all this money and do all this thing in a week or two, you're back into your routine, and I could probably help you better then. Right? That's her language, is I'll be there when you truly need me.
That's what's active service, right?
No, I'm not doing this with you.
And if everybody could just do them, right? If you could just do the thing that makes you feel comfortable, right? And so the people who love to give gifts, knock yourself out, give all the gifts, right? And the people who
making us guilty.
It's not making everybody else feel guilty. But
they don't. It's us that we can give the internal thing. Yeah.
People who love to give gifts oftentimes are not necessarily into getting gifts. It makes them feel weird, right? And not that, but there are the people who give gifts, and then they overgive, and then they feel bad that people don't overgive back to them. And you know what? That's not your problem. This is the other thing. And sometimes we got to realize it's not my problem what your reaction is to what I have to give, right? So see this, let's flip this, right? Let's flip this and say, can we honor what someone has to give to us? Usually we can, right? If someone is like, yes, this is all I have to give, right? Gift of the Magi, right? Here's what I have to give, right? But can we honor it in ourselves and say, this is all I have to give right now, right? This is all I have to give. And for me to push beyond that, we're back to sociopath and psychopath, right? Is to harm myself, right? I'm not going to ask somebody to harm themselves to give to me, right? So why am I going to harm myself to give to somebody else? And I think that if we can just, again, it just comes back to, can we be forgiving to ourselves, right? Can we be gentle and kind to ourselves? And if we're going to look at this spirit of the season, right? I heard something very interesting about just thinking about the spirit of all the holidays. There's all kinds of holidays that are about light, right? So you have Diwali, which is a festival of lights. Hanukkah is about light. Christmas is really about light, and comes out of the way we particularly celebrate Christmas is the Saturnalia, and the Druid expression of the evergreen was how to find light at the darkest time of the year, how to find hope in the darkest time of the year. The Saturnalia, the rebirth of the sun, right? And meaning the sun in the sky. And so let's delve down into what as human beings we really trying to find, right? Which is light and hope, right? And love and connection. And so to say, how do I facilitate that for myself and in myself? And it can feel like this attachment to the tradition. And again, I'm not talking about with little kids. There's a lot of pressure, and I never had small children, so I can't even comment on that. But to say, particularly as grown up, right? Grown up to grown up, is to say, you know, how do we get into that important spirit? So you talk about your youngest daughter being grinchy about Christmas, but that she's absolutely willing to be of service at another time, or when at any time that is needed, right? Where she's like, this is really where it's valuable. That's the spirit. That's the spirit of the holidays. That's the spirit. That's the Christmas spirit. That's the spirit of all of these holidays, which is about how do you let light shine? How do you let your light shine? How do you let, you know, how do you illuminate darkness? And I feel like, especially when we're grown people dealing with grown people, that's a really nice way to ground into it, right? And that there's very few people that if you say to them, you know, even in, you know, that, look, I'm just tired. This has been hard. It's hard. This has been a hard year. And I just want to, you know, I just like this. Hey guys, this is me. If you think you're getting a present from me, think again, because I have not gotten it together. But you know what? When I see something that I think somebody would like, I give it to them. You know, it's like there's times to, you know, give something later.
Is it because we only take the time now to truly see each other is when it's the holiday? Otherwise, we're busy. We're going about our busy lives, and this is like we all perk our head up to see what's going on around. You know, we're traveling to family. I mean, because what other time in the year do you really spend the entire day? The entire day, you know, or a couple of days, depending on what other time during the year do you do that? And you've got some, you know, people who they're going back to what you don't know what's going on in their world.
Well, you know, and
they camouflaged it all just to come together during this time. You know,
it's absolutely true. And I think back to the before times, and when I think about the before times, I mean before I became ensconced in caregiving, I would go to a Christmas party. Yeah, I'd go to a holiday party at least one a week, starting like almost from Halloween all the way to the end of the year, right? Everybody's throwing parties and was going to all kinds of parties and events, and it was too much. You know, it got to be too much, and it was like, you know, it almost got to be the burden of all these events I'm trying to go to. And it's like, why were we not spreading all these events out through the year, right? It's because this is our designated time. So this is a case of where sometimes pushing back against a tradition is actually for your benefit, right? Is to say, why do we shove all the togetherness here at the end of the year? Can we have these times that we connect with our friends, that we connect with our families? And yes, the part of it, I mean, we're coming up on an hour, but I'm like, part of it is the way you know, when do you get time off of work? When are the kids off of school? You know, we have our whole system is structured around certain periods of time when people are free. And so until that shifts, it's going to be hard to break out of this. You know, like, look, my parents were the ones who left their small town, and, you know, they each were from a different small town. Met in college, went away, and, you know, and lived away from their big families. And so we traveled at the holidays. That's when we the family that lived away came back, right? We traveled at Christmas. We maybe traveled at Easter. We would travel at like the 4th of July, right? So
do you still feel a sense that you need to do that now?
I absolutely feel like Christmas is something you go visit, right? Thanksgiving we typically did as a family, although a lot of times we would be traveling then too. We would do a little family vacation, and we had places that we would go, and we would eat Thanksgiving as a meal out somewhere. But yeah, I mean, for me, I want to go travel and visit Christmas. I'm like, you know, I want to get in the car and go, right? I want to go stay at a hotel and go like up to Asheville to Biltmore House, right? And see Christmas. I want to see somebody else's Christmas. You know, so my family, I was going to visit, you know, my grandparents, you know, and we would alternate between families. And so I visited their Christmas, right? And so to me, there's a detachment from being the one who's creating it, right? Because I experienced it almost like a guest, right? So when you talk about doing it different, I'm like, I say go somewhere where Christmas is a big deal. Frankenmuth, Michigan is Christmas town. You know, there's places that's just Christmas, right? It's like a Hallmark movie. Go to Christmas and enjoy it, and then come on home and be rested, right?
I mean, working from home this year, like never leaving the house, I didn't get a chance to see all the decorations all around the city this year.
Yeah.
And I thought about that yesterday. I'm like, oh wow, I missed, because one of the things here is people dress up their yards for Halloween. They take down the Halloween, they put up the Christmas, and now people are even doing that for Easter. So it's really becoming a big thing for people to put out, all the inflatables, and there's a neighborhood where a couple of houses really compete, where every inch has something. I didn't even get a chance to see that this year. So maybe Christmas night we'll get out
do that
and drive.
Yeah.
I think we'll go load up the car, and just go and ride. I would love that. I would love that.
And if I had the wherewithal to do it, Six Flags has a giant drive. They've got all Six Flags decorated. I mean, to me, that sounds fantastic.
And that's literally like right up the street from me.
Up here, if you're all with your family up here, Life University. I don't know if they're doing it this year, but we
used to do that every year. Because remember, the kids were small. We lived in Marietta, so that was a tradition that we did.
I love that kind of thing, and that's what, again, we did that too. We would was get in the car when we were kids and drive around, and it was something to do with little kids, and it's to entertain them in the era before all these things to keep kids entertained when they had to be stuck inside. But again, traveling at that time of year, we got to see all kinds of communities, because we always lived far away. I mean, only when we were very little did we even live as close as 2 hours drive to any of our family. But, we would sometimes, we often lived, 12, 16-hour drive. Sometimes it would be 2 days of driving to get back to visit the family. And so, talk about getting to see all kinds of stuff, right? So to me, that's a great tradition. If I was, let me just change this. One day I'll be back to where I can do that, right? But I think about my nephews, and their tradition is having a Christmas tree, being at home, being in their house with their parents in their PJs on Christmas Eve, on Christmas morning. This is their tradition, and their tradition is going to be different than my tradition, and then even their parents' traditions, and that's okay, right? And that's that and who knows what they'll do. But I would love for people to be free to do what they want to do. So hey, it's 2:30. Do we want to talk about Clubhouse for a few minutes?
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about that, because I know people are still trying to get on. I was trying to get a friend on earlier, and we found out, because I thought Androids were on, and no, it seems to be still an Apple.
For anybody who doesn't know what Clubhouse is, Yalanda, give them the quick
well, they have a very simple description as a drop-in audio platform, and basically it's virtual rooms. It's kind of like there's no broadcast; it's literally all audio. So you go into a virtual room, like a chat room. There's no commenting. There's no reactions. It's literally you along with whomever decide you're going to moderate a room. And you can invite your following if you've built a following, but it's absolutely awesome and amazing. And it's funny because when you hear people talk about what their experience is on the app, that only speaks to who they follow. It speaks to who they follow and the networking that they have curated. But if you are, it literally, you decide what you want to subscribe to. There's a calendar. You log in, and let me see. I'll bring mine up as well, and let me see if I can even let you guys hear a little bit. I'll turn my volume up. So you log on, and you have, kind of. It's almost like let's say there was a 24/7 symposium, is what it's been described as. So there are all these different. It could be a workshop. It could be. Gosh, people are tribing up. I don't want to say tribing up. It's networking is what it is. It's literally networking. It's literally a conversation. You're either going to speak or you're going to listen. You're going to do one or two things. You're going to speak or you're going to listen.
I think that's an interesting way, and you've spent more time on it than I have, but to think of it as a networking event with a panel.
It is a networking event.
A panel discussion with a networking, right?
24/7.
And yes, and that there's going to be some people that are designated to have, to start the conversation, right? So like here we've got, your group there that is that will start the conversation, but anybody
those icons tell you basically how many people are on stage. It has a scenario like that, like you're either on stage or you're in the audience, right?
Right.
And if you're in the audience, you can decide, you can ask a question, you can
virtually raise your hand, your microphone is turned on, then you're able to participate, right? Mm-hmm. And then if the moderator can remove you, you can remove yourself, right? So it is
Stephanie, it is an app on Apple right now, for Apple iPhones right now. It's for Apple products. It has not yet come to Android products.
Right.
So go ahead.
And Twitter is trying to launch a competitive product called Twitter Spaces. So keep an eye out for that. But Clubhouse is invite only. I think they've done an interesting job of sort of building a buzz of, do you get an invite? I think with Twitter breathing down their necks, they're going to have to speed up the
I think somebody mentioned a couple of 100,000 just came on. I just got my little welcome screen came off, so now I have a full on, and I got new invites. Anybody wants to invite?
That's because I only still have one invite. So part of it is you have to invite people, and I think
you get your invites based on your interaction on there. So you can, and again, it's based on your follow. It's based on it's actually also based on the contacts in your phone. So when you do get access to the app, you can decide to allow the app to access the contacts in your phone, and it will then either connect you to those people online if they're already online. You can decide to follow them, or you can invite as you earn your invites, right? And so.
And this is one reason why I don't have, which I've not been aggressive in inviting, because I don't like to opt in to share my contacts. Although you pointed out to me, and I see it's true, you can turn on your contacts and turn them off, right? So there's someone you want to invite, you turn it on and you turn it off.
I also noticed that there were, it sent me a message that there was somebody I knew they were going to let on, and they asked me if I wanted to give them access, but it didn't use one of my invites.
One of yours.
Right. It was like, hey, so it can come on.
There may be a request. There may be a way to request to join. I think it's a very exciting concept. And
honey, let me tell you, it's a little bit more than exciting. Okay. When it becomes results oriented, it's a little bit more than exciting. And I am trying not to get on. When I tell you I'm trying so hard not to get on, I've been invited on the stage. You're here. Can you moderate? No, I just want to lean back, right?
Right.
So I've gone into a room because one of the things I'm trying to do is to get my Instagram popping, right? And so I've gone into rooms where they're literally talking about what to do with your Instagram, what to do with your bio. Like I go into the rooms, the first rooms I went into where they're talking about how to get your bios done. And that's whether your Twitter bio being just a few characters, and then you've got others where you can literally post a book and so forth. Honey, I did that Instagram thing, and my Instagram is popping.
Yeah.
One of the things too, you think about Clubhouse for what you want to accomplish on Clubhouse, not what you want to accomplish on Facebook and everywhere else. It's like, what do you want to get out of Clubhouse? And so you then tweak your bio there for what you want to accomplish. One of the things that I learned was to go ahead fully into the soap making, right? It's like, I've got the history of marketing. I've got the history of blogging. I'm, pioneered the blogosphere along with others and so forth. But that's not what I want to do right now. What I love about Clubhouse, they're like, okay, starting now and going forward, what do you want to accomplish? I don't want to just be known for what I've done. Here's what I'm trying to accomplish now. So what was a hesitation for me was to bring that thing that I'm doing now to the forefront.
Right.
And put in the history, letting the history be the history, right?
Yeah.
And so I had to do that on a couple of platforms. And once I did that, because I'm developing that following, like people looking at my content, they're like, your content changes up. I was in the kitchen, now I'm over here. It's the difference in the backdrop. Okay, well, go ahead and be that, And so I'm learning. Not to mention, I was concerned. I was like, oh my God, I lost 24 followers, right? Simply because I flipped my account from personal to business.
Mm-hmm.
But I lost 24 followers, but in that same day, I gained 160 followers.
There you go.
Simply because I was now saying I am doing what I am doing. Right. And therefore, when they see this content out there and they come to the profile, because where you lose the trust, authenticity, accountability is when somebody sees a piece of content and they make their way to your profile and your profile doesn't match and your website doesn't match. Yeah. You lose them. You confuse them is what you do. And then you lose them. And people are hearing about this $5 Fridays and this, that, and the other. And they're coming over and I say, wait, but this says blogging and it says this, that, and the other. And how long have I been saying, okay, I'm done with that?
Well, see, that right there, ding, ding, is the point, right? And it's and this is so let me just throw in there. Yalanda has launched a clubhouse, but it's not a clubhouse, it's a room, right? So you have a room, then you have a club, right? So we're at room level. And on Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern, we're having about life after 50, right? So about, starting again, right? Or starting for the first time at 50. So this is some of this content, some of what we're talking about really is about that. But to this point is that if you're 50, if you're in your 40s even and plus as a leading woman, you have probably done 10 things by now, right? You've got, you probably have at least 2 really well-established areas of expertise and career, right? And so it feels scary to not list all of that because you worked really hard to get it, right? And
right.
You worked your ass off to get where you are, right? And to have the credentials that you are. And now you're starting to, if you start to shift into something else, you're like, but I need to bring all this with me, right? Because I need people to know that I know something, right? And that I'm qualified. And it's like, but people don't care about all those past qualifications. If you're doing something that is entirely or is quite significantly different. So what you're doing with the soap, you bring piece of blogging and podcasting and photography and and marketing, and it's all in there. It's all baked around it, right? But the focus is the soap, right? And so you can certainly reference all that other stuff that you're expert in. And this would be for anybody if you're shifting, right? But you got to give people a clear lens. So it's like a lens, right? So we're in our glasses, right? It's like if I don't have my lenses, I can't see, right? But once I have this, allows me to see all of this, right? These 2 lenses allow me to see everything. So you've got to bring it down, right? So it's like it's like an upside down funnel, right? But you got to bring it to a very clear entry point for people. And once they get in there, you can talk about everything in the world that you want. As long as it comes through, as long as it makes sense through that lens. And so, but it's scary. It's scary. I mean, I think about, I so want to list, like I was working on my resume for something, probably 5 years ago. And I had my resume all the way back to like 1984, right? Yeah. And I had every job and everything. And,
today, they just don't know, what do you know how to do?
Yeah. And so, it was, I know what it was. I was doing a resume update, and I had hired someone. I was like, I'm going to really do this right. And so, I was like doing LinkedIn. I think it was connected to launching my LinkedIn. And they said, don't go back more than about 10 years in what you're doing, maybe 15 that's relevant what you're doing. He said, okay, yeah, all this stuff is impressive, but first of all, you're certainly showing your age, and there is some age discrimination, right? To say that that you were doing something in 1984, right, is to say you've been working a hell of a long time, right? But any computer skills you had in 1984 are no longer relevant in 2020, right? So to say it's okay for you to know, it's okay for you to have a page somewhere on a website that lists everything you did, because I'm all for that, but you don't lead with it. So I relate to what you're saying so much. This is my point. I feel that.
And I'm going to tell you about relating to this. Let me tell you, there was a radio veteran in there, and Shannon says we have to stop thinking. Hold on, I'll get a comment here. She says we have to stop thinking that we are what we do. We need to become our message, not our task and tools and to-do list. Saying this as I just I just got laid off, and I'm trying to figure out. Let me tell you, there was a radio veteran in there. Now, and of course, she had her 20 years of what she's done. She's been on the top New York stations. She's been on the top Los Angeles stations, right? But over on Clubhouse, those kids know nothing about radio veterans. They know nothing about those top radio stations. And she was in one of the rooms that I was in. It's like, where they basically look at your bio, look at your social media, your website, and see if there's cohesive and consistency, right?
Right.
And she gave I've been doing this 20 years and da 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 da. And they were like, okay, so what do you want to do with that? What do you want to do now? Why are you here?
Right.
If because that's great, but the world just changed. Are you willing to change with it? And the hurt that everybody was just like you were saying, the way you can tell me when they're feeling, when they're telling them, look, you need to take all that stuff off. Because you got me scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, because the first thing that people want to do now is go from a platform for where I can give you money. I can't give you money on Clubhouse, right?
Right.
I need to get to the link right quick where I can go and buy what you're selling, buy into what you're selling, or invest in you. I can't do that reading all of this. And particularly if what you did is older than everybody in the room.
Everybody in the room, yeah.
Like, no. And as I even say that, as what you said, I'm like, shoot, I want to go take one more thing off of my bio, because I still want to say, okay, award winning. I still want to say I got 20 years in the game. But our frustration is like, whoa, what we did 20 years ago, we now have to do it all over again. But we also, Belinda had to leave. See you this evening. Love you. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be here.
I'm going to have to go too. It's 1:45.
Yeah, and I've got to order pickup. But leading forward, and Angela, I've got one more episode for you guys. New Year's Eve. Not New Year's Eve, but the eve before New Year's Eve. Yeah. And we'll look back and we'll look ahead on the next one. But again, be relevant. Get your message out there. I think we'll go out on what Shannon was saying. Become your message more so than the task and the to-do list. And you can keep your history, and because it's important. And one day people are going to look for that. It'll always come back up, because there'll always be time for the more experienced in the room.
And absolutely. And there's, like I said, there's a place where all that information can live, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. Like I say, it can't be that people, and I appreciate these kids saying this, it can't be that you got to scroll through all of it, right? That's got to be somewhere.
Girl, I'm going over here right now.
I can't be forward facing. I mean, I know I said we got to go, but I want to throw this out. There's a fantastic documentary on the Bee Gees, and I wouldn't have even said I was a Bee Gees fan. And I'm like, oh my God, I know every Bee Gees song. I was totally into Andy Gibb. But to watch this Bee Gees a documentary, I was introduced to the Bee Gees in their disco phase, and I would have been in middle school, as Yolanda, you were the same age. But they had a whole career prior to it. In fact, they had 2 careers prior to the career that hit in the 70s. They were they were a child band. They were a boy band. Yeah. They were like when they were, what was it? Barry was 9 and the twins were 5. They were a band. Then they moved to England and they became like, they were like a British Invasion Beatles level kind of stuff. They were doing those kinds of Beatles. They got huge. They broke up. So by the time I'm in meeting the Bee Gees, right, with Saturday Night Fever, they were on their 3rd iteration of their career, right? So and then they went on after the whole disco crash. They went on and they had yet again another iteration. But I was like, I'm like, sometimes you don't need to know what you don't need to know everything that everybody did, right? You don't, I didn't need to know that the Bee Gees had been a child band, and then they'd been a boy, then they'd been a Beatles, a British pop band, and now they were.
Well, imagine how they feel or felt, because there are those that only knew them as the big brothers to the popular younger brother who was solo.
That's what I was thinking about the Bee Gees more in terms of Andy Gibb, right? As because he was more targeted to us. No, that's it. And or think about it, if you only know them as disco and don't realize that they sang ballads.
Think about if you only know the one because of all the duets.
Exactly, Barry and the duets.
Yeah.
So there's, there's a lot of feelings in there. But to the point is that you will have many iterations, and whatever the iteration that you're on is the place that you need to focus. And when they came out, the thing that I love about that, you don't even have to like the Bee Gees. If you're interested in creative process, the way they kept recreating themselves and the way they managed their creative process is incredible. And when they came up and it's like 74, 75, and they were changing their sound, they literally said, we've got to start from scratch. We got to start all over again. And everybody was, in fact, when they released their first record off of that new album, which was, I believe, was 75, which was Jive Talking. When they sent it out to the record stations, they didn't put their name on it. They didn't say who the band was, because they said nobody will play this if it's the Bee Gees, because they were like the brokenhearted Bee Gees. The Bee Gees were just known for ballads and singing brokenhearted songs, right?
Right.
Their dance music didn't make any sense. So, so they were with Atlantic Records so they could get their record on the air. And then suddenly people were like, who is this? Who is this? But they had to be willing to leave all of that behind, right? All of that credibility behind. And by doing that, they were able to launch into something and to create a genre. Up until that point, they were duplicating old genre, right? When you see, they were duplicating the Beatles, right? They had their own sound, but they were duplicating the Beatles. But when they came back into mid 70s, 75, 74, 75, they came up with something new and innovative they didn't start disco, but they were part of a change. They were part of something that exploded. But that was because they were willing to just leave all that behind. And that, to me, is the inspiration of that, is that, I'm clearly a person who likes to change, who's going to go.
And not that they had to put it away, but still it's there, and people came back to it. I think I like what you said, the focus. We've got to learn how to let something else be the focus for a while, and it's not like you're going to lose it. It's not like it's ever going to come up again. But right now, there's a new focus. You think about all these different platforms and all these different opportunities we have. Look at Facebook. Every year they come out and they do their developers conference, and they literally say, here's where we're going to focus this year. Next year, it's either we're going to go back to something or we're going to go forward to something else. And I want to just say that also to Stephanie, who says, when she's talking about her experience, I know she wants to do the advocacy and she's got experience in telecommunication, but what's the focus? What is the focus right now? Right now, I got to go focus on getting into the holiday spirit.
and look, let's key into that when you are in a spirit of joy, right? When you're a good cheer, right? That's contagious. And that's beneficial, right? So the contribution that you can make over the next couple of days, leading women, is my leading words of wisdom. Is try to find your joy and to have a spirit of good cheer. And if what isn't coming together, what isn't working, what gets burned, the package that doesn't arrive, it doesn't matter. That's not where.
Girl, don't say that. Don't say the package doesn't arrive.
Sorry.
A lot of merchants like myself are getting those inboxes.
Like, no.
What happened?
You'll get it the next day. It'll be fine, right? But
there you go.
It'll be fine. And
it will be fine.
Doing, jazz hands. That, that's a contribution not just to yourself, but to all of us. So anyway,
there we go. All in all. And one thing I can say without us giving up our 20 years at doing this is one thing we all do know, it will all be fine. It will be all, no matter how much we worry, no matter all that, it will be fine. All right, guys.
It will be. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Regardless. So everybody, we'll be back with you next week. So we're on the countdown, what hours for Christmas Eve and Christmas.
And join us on Clubhouse. I would get people to join us on Clubhouse. And invite to Clubhouse. Reply here. I only have one, and I've already promised it to somebody, but I probably will get more.
I think I might have one. I'm on the cusp of earning one. Because they do go fast, and it's not that people aren't sharing. It's just that you only get with so many based on how you engage on the platform, and everybody wants to get on, and you are tied to that person when they get on there. So that's one thing.
It's like, and this where I thought it's putting your reputation on the line when you are vouching. Basically, they're having you vouch for people to come on. So
it's what it is. So Saturday, if you do go on the platform and you're looking around like, wait, what is this? And
what is this? Yeah.
If you're in our generation, you can look for us on Saturday. Saturdays we're doing the 50 plus rooms on Clubhouse and we're learning so much from our young people and networking and so forth. But it is, if you do get a chance, do get on. Go and check it out. It's like a 24/7 symposium. It's everything. It's virtual rooms. It's all kinds of conversation. Whether you're looking to just find, any kind of tribe, or you want to do go the entrepreneur, the business route, the mommy route, the daddy route. I love that. That's there as well.
Academics. There's a whole.
Honey, I found the food side, the chef side today. I invited into a room where everybody was on the foodie side. So.
And there's high level business discourse. Like Yalanda pinged me on one that was about the future of grocery delivery, and they had, so I think it was somebody from Instacart. They had someone from Kroger. They had somebody from Salesforce. I mean, this is. There's every level of what you want to talk about. And when I should say level, I don't want to say iteration. I mean, there's also like, hey, ladies, come over here. I'll tell you to look good, right? There's also, there's also
you found that one.
There's also the moaning room. Don't go in there.
Oh yeah, I did see that. I was like, I'm not going in there.
That's how I found
I'm not going. I did see that on there.
But so I mean, you can get into some stuff, but there's some, it's wild west right now. It's wild.
Keep in mind, you guys, Angela dabbled in the erotica. Okay, so that's why she was shocked.
Oh, I know about the moaning
room. And people always looking for the after dark. Okay, the after dark and the uncut, but. What I love about this harkens back to platforms we used to have. It represents us just in a virtual world. It represents the entire community in a virtual world. And it is also global. So keep that in mind.
I can't believe how many people are giving language lessons. So just scrolling through, there's people that if you want to learn.
I'm down for that.
If you want to learn Japanese, I've seen almost every language somebody is doing like conference groups. Sadly right now you can't search Clubhouse by topic, but you can if people have it in their bio.
If they have it in their bio. And that's the thing too. If they have it in their bio, go to their bio and you can see what rooms they're in. If you follow them, and this is another thing why some people probably won't want to go on there, because it does show where you are. Okay. I don't know if there's an incognito mode or anything like that yet, but it does. If you shows your followers what rooms you are in. So, be mindful of that as you go. Maybe, go give yourself another invite to another name.
Invite yourself to it, right. If you
invite the other side. Invite your aliases.
Right. If you need to think
look, that's probably why people run out of invites so fast. They already created aliases so they can go into this other side, the dark side, the dark clubhouse. But it is fun, guys, but take all reviews, based on what they are. That person's opinion. Try it for yourself. Check out, there's many competitors coming online as well. Clearly, if they've started a space, it's working. Somebody else can slide right in there, depending. All right, Angela, what's your wish for Christmas?
My Christmas wish? Oh, I'm going to say peace on earth. I'm going to say peaceful transition of power. You know what, though? Here's my Christmas wish. Here's my Christmas wish. I still want a one Peloton. I want my Peloton.
So you hadn't talked about Peloton all year.
Because everybody have snatched them up in the pandemic. I was like, I still want my Peloton. I would like some nice dish rags. It's like if somebody would give me some dish rags. I want a Peloton. I want a PhD and some dish rags. And that,
Lord have mercy. We're gonna revisit your Christmas list next week. I can probably shoot you over some dish rags. I don't know that I can do the Peloton.
I was just like, gosh, I would just be so happy for some nice new dish rags.
From what store? What store would you love dish rags?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm like, I just want something that's not that's just not ragged on the edges. I usually get my stuff from Target, right? That was where I would go. I would go to Target, maybe Bed Bath and Beyond. It's the sort of thing I would pick up, right, when I would go to.
I mean, you can do the pickup.
I order it from Target. I said, I just need to go. I mean, I can order any of these things and get them, right? But I was just like, it's just it's the sort of thing that you just like, you're out and you're like, oh, it's seasonal or whatever. And I'm like, I was like, gosh, I literally am washing my dishes with scraps of like scraps. And I'm like, I don't even want a blender. I don't even want a vacuum cleaner. I'm not even asking for like
you know what?
Homemaker. I just want some dish rags.
That is something that is said every year. People do get elaborate stuff and they really want something so simple. Like they really want something so simple.
I'm like, have I had good socks or emery boards since my mom passed? Nope.
Well, socks was on my list for the birthday, and Petty Betty every day countdown to her birthday. I got a pair of socks.
Oh,
so I actually have on some socks right now.
Kids are good.
And what I have noticed, socks no longer not having to do laundry for kids. Every pair of socks that goes into the washer comes out of the washer. I have not lost and I'm sitting there going like, all of my socks come out of the washer. So maybe somewhere somebody's not being truthful about all of the socks ending up in the laundry.
Right.
Because every week my socks come out match for match.
Mystery solved.
Yeah, grown kids, do your own laundry. All right, Angela, have a happy and Merry Christmas, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us all year. You have been our absolute Christmas wish by being in our audience and joining us each week on Wednesday. Notice I did say Leading Women Wednesday. I didn't say Leading Women Weekly this time.
Oh, I got to catch caught up.
Yeah, I said Leading Wednesday.
We're caught up.
There we go. All right, guys. Have a great day. Bye.